Years ago, humanity almost got wiped out by enormous armored beetles. Because of these giant bugs, humans do not live on the Earth anymore, but in floating cities instead. However, the wizards from prestigious floating wizard academies fight the beetles with magic in the air. The anime begins with 4 wizards fighting a bunch of armored beetles. Kanata saves Yuri, while Lloyd covers close back from enemy attacks, but suddenly, a large number of beetles appear, so the group decides to retreat, except Kanata. He says that he will stay to distract them while they escape. Although Kanata manages to destroy many of the beetles, a giant beetle appears, launching an attack that is difficult to avoid, so Kanata resigns himself and hopes that his friends have escaped. 6 months later, at Miss Gun Academy, Chloe, along with another girl named Freyan, the leader of the Sky Wizards division of Miss Gun, are evaluating 3 of the worst students. The first, Rico Flamel, is a narcissistic and very arrogant girl, believing herself to be a goddess to the point where she does not do her schoolwork, nor does she believe that she should apologize as she should for this. The next student from the same squad is Lecty Eisenach. She has a dream, which is to fight with the Beetles, since people who are eaten by them cannot be remembered by those who do not have magic, the naturals. Although her goals are noble, Freyan does not approve of her because she is very clumsy, yet they let her stay as she is part of a prestigious family of magicians. The last girl and the leader of the squad, Misora Whitale, who has a record of more than 124 consecutive defeats. These 3 are part of the worst fire team in history, the Fire Team E601. Then Freyan asks Chloe to choose a tutor for this squad. Meanwhile, Kanata is going through the inventory, and when he finishes, Lloyd, one of his former teammates, tells him that the Sky Wizards division lead wants to see him in her office. After that, Kanata goes to the office, but on his way he bumps into Misora, who was running with a piece of toast in her mouth. She falls on top of him, and the toast with jam falls on his pants. Misora blames him for the incident and calls him a pervert, but without realizing it, he was already gone. After this unfortunate encounter, Kanata tries to wash his pants but runs into Rico, who sees him in his underwear and accuses him of being a pervert as well. So he runs away again and hides in a bathroom. But when he goes out, he meets Lecty, who, like her teammates, accuses him of being a pervert because he inadvertently went into the girls' bathroom. Once he is free of this, Kanata arrives at the academy where several students call him a traitor. He is unfazed and meets up with Yuri and Chloe. When Yuri sees him, she gets angry and calls him a traitor like everyone else. However, he doesn't take it the bait and annoys her by saying that she's still holding a grudge. Yuri gets angrier and leaves. Chloe tries to excuse her by saying that she doesn't know the truth about what happened that day 6 months ago, but Kanata explains to Chloe that he's bothering her so Yuri can vent, since Yuri doesn't know how to control her emotions. After that, Chloe takes Kanata with Freyan, who is not very happy to see him, but still gives him the papers to be an instructor for the Fire Team E601. He reads the profiles of the 3 girls and is surprised. In the afternoon, he heads to the classroom of his new squad while the other students walk away from him, calling him a traitor. Meanwhile, the girls from Fire Team E601 are chatting about the pervert that the 3 of them encountered during the day, but their talk is interrupted when Kanata arrives and introduces himself as their new instructor. They first recognize him as the pervert, but when they hear his name, the 3 invoke their swords and prepare to fight against the traitor. Misora questions Kanata why he is their instructor, believing that he didn't even read their records. However, Kanata recites her horrible performance in theory and practice, making her embarrassed. Then, he tells Rico that she is the only one of the 3 who has excellent grades, but on her practical exam she got an F, and she says that she didn't get to do her hair on time, so she preferred not to show up. Finally, Lecty apologizes for her poor performance after listening to him recite her horrible grades. After that, Kanata is ready to start his class, but Misora refuses to let the traitor train them. Lecty doesn't know why Kanata is called a traitor, so Misora and Rico tell her the story about Kanata. It turns out, 6 months after the mission, Kanata has been skipping all the missions assigned to him, and once he did not show up for a rank match that would have promoted his team to S rank. Despite this, Kanata tells them that if he trains them, they could be stronger than superior squads, and that convinces Misora. However, Rico refuses since a goddess like her does not need to demonstrate her power, but Kanata provokes her, comparing her to Misora and making her agree to be trained. On the other hand, Yuri and Chloe are drinking tea while being watched by other students since their squad is highly admired. Yuri asks Chloe if Kanata is still on sick leave. Chloe is amused and tells her that this is the 6th time she has asked for the same thing and tells her that he is now an instructor for a Rocky squad. That bothers Yuri a lot and she starts to rant. But Chloe asks her not to speak so badly about Kanata and clarifies to her that Kanata, although he doesn't show it, continues to defend peace. Meanwhile, Kanata ascends to the sky along with his students, using a flight assist tool with lower mobility. He tells them that their first training will be Onigako, a game for those who just begin to fly. However, Kanata allows them to use arcana alchemical weapons. If they defeat him, the training ends. Although the girls disagree, the training begins and Kanata quickly flies off and Misora and chases after him. Immediately, Kanata realizes that they have no teamwork. He flies around to check Misora's speed and stamina and is surprised at her good stats. He stops for Misora to use her sword on him, Radgrid, and although it seems very powerful, her movements are not refined and it seems that she doesn't even know how to use it, so with a single maneuver, he disappears into the clouds. On the other hand, Lecty surprises him from behind with her Amano Habakiri swords, which she moves skillfully, but she is distrustful of her abilities and asks for forgiveness for just getting close. In the middle of their fight, Rico uses her Athena rifle to attack Kanata from the distance. He easily avoids it, but realizes that the bullet will hit Lecty, so he cuts it in half with his knife. After training, the girls are changing clothes, and Misora complains about having lost, but realizes that as a leader, she did not give instructions to them, to which Rico says that she's a bad leader and shouldn't be, but Misora says she created the fire team, so it's up to her to be the leader. While this is happening, Kanata evaluates the weaknesses and strengths of the three, and thinks it will be fun to put together this puzzle to make them work. Although to his bad luck, he goes to see them to tell them what their next training session will be, and he gets to see them just when they are in their underwear, so they accuse him of being a pervert again. The next day, Kanata informs Fire Team E601 that the next training will be very difficult, but Rico says she won't do it and leaves the class, but Kanata doesn't seem to care, and he is ready to impart his training to the other two girls. After that, Kanata buys Lecty a maid outfit and she puts it on. She's very embarrassed and asks him if it's okay to use the squad's budget on clothes like this, and he just says that this will help her improve. And then he gives her some discount flyers from a coffee shop for her to hand out. At first she has a hard time, but after some boys take her flyers, it becomes easier for her. Then Kanata talks to Misora and gives her the mission to find Rico's weakness, and she accepts without understanding what this type of training would do for her. Misora then begins to follow Rico, but she is easily discovered because Rico saw her in a mirror. Misora makes up an excuse and asks Rico to let her go shopping with her. Rico thinks she's under a spell or something, but she still agrees to let her go with her. After a while, Lecty returns to Kanata and tells him that she managed to distribute all the flyers. Then he tells her that the next part of her training is to work part-time in the cafeteria from the flyers that she distributed. On the other hand, the Professor Real Nua is lost in his research on beetles to the point that he does not realize that he bumps into Yuri and she accidentally spills her drink on him. She begins to try to clean it up, and the professor does not even notice that his pants are stained since he has fallen completely in love with her. Back with Rico and Misora, the latter is surprised by all the book that Rico purchases, and even more so when she sees that she hides her taste for pretty things. Returning once again with Lecty, she's working in the cafeteria, but her anxiety overcomes her, and she runs to hide, and by chance she meets Misora. Then she explains to her that this is her training, and Misora offers to help her, and Lecty gives her a bunny suit that Kanata had also bought. Misora takes the orders from the tables without problems, and Lecty fearfully approaches a table where she meets Lloyd, who notices that she feels nervous when talking to people, so he advises her to trust her instructor and lean on her friend. That advice encourages her, and she takes the orders from the tables without so much nervousness. As soon as the day is over, they both confront Kanata about the weird training, and when Misora encourages Lecty to complain too, she asks him if he knew about her social anxiety. This greatly surprises Misora, and Kanata replies that during their fight, Lecty was not able to look him in the eyes. She only attacked him with her eyes closed, and she has a lot of potential. On the other hand, Misora admits to having failed in training her since she did not discover Rico's weakness, and she also feels that she has failed as a leader since she did not know things about Rico and Lecty. However, Kanata calms her down by telling her that realizing her poor job as a leader was her training today, her next training will be to improve that aspect. At night, Chloe sneaks into Kanata's room and finds him reviewing Misora's file and her lack of skill with a sword. The next day, Kanata tells Misora to change her combat style to a cannon, since she has no sword skills. Misora immediately objects, but Kanata says that she has no talent with the sword, and it is better to take advantage of her strengths with the cannon. Suddenly, Misora starts crying and says that for a moment, she thought he was a good instructor and leaves the classroom. Chapter 4, in the afternoon, Misora goes to the cemetery, and in front of her mother's tombstone, she remembers how incredible she was as a sky wizard. With her sword, Radgrid, she could eliminate a battalion of evil beetles alone. Misora swears that she will not give up and will continue using Radgrid. Days later, Lecty meets Lloyd again since she brought him coffee, and he congratulates her for having improved. After that, she meets up with Rico and asks her for help finding Misora since she hasn't attended school in days. However, Rico refuses, leaving Lecty with no choice but to ask Kanata for help. Rico then asks her why she trusts him, and Lecty responds that although at first she was worried about his way of training them, she now knows that he is genuinely interested in them. Meanwhile, Real Nua is practicing her declaration to Yuri, but suddenly he sees her running towards Kanata and chatting animatedly with him about his squad, and Real Nua realizes that she has feelings for Kanata. After that, Kanata goes to Misora's father's restaurant where he finds her working, but as soon as she sees him enter, she leaves upset, leaving Kanata alone with her father, who invites him to eat, while telling him about Misora's mother. It turns out that he is a natural, and he lost his memories of his wife when she passed away. He only has photos and videos of her, but even so, there's nothing in his memories that has made his relationship with his daughter difficult, and she refuses to leave to use his mother's sword for fear of forgetting her too. While they talk, Misora changes her clothes and goes to a desolate floating city to train with her sword. While she remembers how happy she was when her mother returned from a mission, everyone in the neighborhood used to congratulate her on her great fighting feats. One night, her mother took her to fly over the cities and told her that she was going on missions because she had to protect the thousands of people who lived there. But one day, her mother did not return from a mission, and when Misora went to ask her father about her mom, she realized that he no longer remembered his wife. Then some soldiers arrived with her mother's sword, and Misora burst into tears, promising to be a sky wizard like her mother. Back in the present, Misora continues training with her sword, becoming frustrated because her efforts are useless, but she still does not give up, determined to be just like her mother. Suddenly, Kanata arrives and takes her to the cemetery where all the fallen wizards are. Kanata tries again to convince Misora to give up the sword, but she refuses again, getting upset when she sees that he is the same as her father. So Kanata makes her understand that her mother's goal was to protect people, not to be a swordswoman. And he tells her that if she continues to be stubborn, her chance of dying will increase, so the people, even her father, will forget her. However, she insists that if she continues using her mother's sword, she might be remembered, convinced that she will be the first to make the naturals remember the fallen. Hearing her, Kanata starts laughing at her determination. So he makes her swear in her mother's grave that she will become stronger than her mother, and he swears with her that he will be by her side on this dangerous path. The next day, while Kanata and the girls are training, Rico thinks Kanata is interesting. Chapter 5. At night, Rico has nightmares about how she always tries to reach her perfect sister Frian, but never could. At that moment, Frian wakes her up to go to the academy, but Rico doesn't get out of bed until Frian is gone. Meanwhile, Lloyd and Kanata meet to eat breakfast, and Yuri also arrives, mocking Kanata that the people still call Kanata a traitor, but he ignores her. While he shows his friend the profiles of Fireteam E571, his squad will face them in the next ranked match, and Kanata thinks they have a chance to win, and Yuri sadly remembers when they were teammates. After his former teammates leave, Rico arrives. She makes it clear to him that she does not intend to receive training from him, since she's a goddess and does not need it. Kanata just smiles and agrees with her. On the other hand, Lecty and Misora put muscle pain patches on each other and are excited to see that the training is getting harder, and that is making them improve. At that moment, Kanata arrives to treat them to ice cream as a reward for their good training. However, Misora rejects him since they have something to do. Lecty and Misora go to their classroom and try to convince Rico to be trained, but she refuses since she still believes that she is a goddess and says that their instructor doesn't want to train her either. Misora continues trying to convince her, at least to participate in the next ranked match, but Rico also rejects it since she knows that they will lose, so Misora kneels and begs her to join them, but suddenly, Kanata enters the classroom and stands up Misora and says that Rico is right in not wanting to fight when you know you are going to lose, but his style is not to give up without trying, and he promises Misora that he will give them the key to victory. The next day, Rico wakes up after having a nightmare chasing her older sister again, and while she is on her way to the academy, she runs into Nuwa. He was looking at Yuri from afar, unable to understand her relationship with Kanata. Meanwhile, Misora and Kanata are training in the sky. He teaches her a new attack, where he accumulates energy in his sword and then fires it. While she practices it, Kanata points out to her that her best ability is her magic, so this is her only attack to win. She manages to shoot successfully, but gets tired instantly, and realizes that Kanata is also tired, but he hides it. He warns her that she can only shoot 3 times a day, but she wonders why he seems to have so little magic if he used to be an elite. Later, Kanata trains Lecty in close-range fights, but she is unfocused because she wants him to give her something like Misora. However, he asks her to show him the fruits of her training, so she begins to fight with more attention than before without taking her eyes off the target, making Kanata proud, and he congratulates her. While this was happening from the ground, Rico watches the training, wondering if Kanata trains her, maybe she could reach her sister's Frian. Suddenly, she gets distracted and loses sight of Kanata, but he surprises her by being behind her. He is surprised to see her with glasses, but quickly deduces that they are to activate her clairvoyance, the best detection ability with which she can see from a great distance. They both start talking, and while she believes that Kanata was not interested in her, he lets her know that she is important to win, managing to convince her to participate in the ranked match. The next day, Rico attends the ranked match, and that makes her teammates happy. They arrive at the arena with Kanata, and their rivals are confident of winning as they are facing the weakest squad in the entire academy. Suddenly, alarms go off as there are a large number of Beetles heading towards the city. Chapter 6. After covering the floating city with shields, Frian begins to lead the counterattack. Those in charge of defending the city outside the shield are Kanata's former squad. Meanwhile, the other students are in charge of evacuating people in different shelters. So Rico asks Kanata why he is not fighting on the front lines, but he says that it is somewhat complicated. At that moment, Lecty arrives with a lost girl, and while they take her to his shelter, Kanata's friends destroy the Beetles. But that was not all the Beetles. Another group manages to break the shield and enter the city. Seeing this, Frian asks the principal for advice, who leaves Miss Gunn to her. So Frian orders the students to prepare to fight. The swarm reaches where Kanata and the girls are, and Misora remembers her mother's words about protecting the city and decides to put her new attack into practice, shooting again and again, defeating the Beetles but causing great destruction, including her father's cafeteria. At the same time, Frian sends wizards to defeat the Chimera, which is the beetle that controls the swarm. Upon arriving, the group kills it easily, but the Beetles do not flee. This because there is another Chimera. This is discovered by Kanata and his girls, so Rico puts on her glasses, finding a large number of Beetles where the Chimera could be. Outside the shield, Kanata's former squad continues fighting with more Beetles, and Yuri worries if they should retreat because of the Beetles attacking the city. But Chloe reminds him that Kanata is there, and although Yuri believes he will be the first to flee, Chloe and Lloyd tell her that he won't. Meanwhile, Kanata tells his team that they will defeat the Chimera. Although they disagree at first, they realize that Kanata really trusts them to be able to do it, so they prepare to fight. At the same time, on Frian's side, systems begin to fail. Squad E601 begins its attack, led by Kanata. Lecty uses her ability with the twin swords to destroy several Beetles, while Rico covers Misora with her rifle, so Misora approaches and launches her special attack, thus killing several Beetles. Despite this combination and Misora's powerful attack, the Beetles do not stop, entering one after another, until finally the unthinkable happens. A giant unknown Chimera appears, launching a powerful beam at Misora, which is blocked by Kanata. After everyone evaded the attack of the giant Chimera, Kanata prepares to fight it. Misora tries to stop him, because she knows that he has little reserve of magic, but Kanata does not pay attention to her, and activates his true power that covers him with a powerful black aura. He launches himself towards the Chimera, being very fast for it. The Chimera then charges a powerful beam, which ends up being avoided by Kanata's attack, which ends up destroying it, and he falls exhausted. Outside the shields, Yuri wonders who launched that tremendous attack, and Chloe and Lloyd tell her that it was Kanata's work, while Frian wonders who eliminated the unknown Chimera. At the same time, Nua discovers a strange eye that hypnotizing him. Back with Kanata, he wakes up in the girls' hands, and they assure him that now they can win their ranked match. Days later, the E601 squad's ranked match is about to begin, and Kanata meets Yuri. She mocks him, asking why he is injured if he just runs away, but Kanata laughs and says that he must have fallen while fleeing. Then they both concentrate on the match. To Kanata's surprise, the girls lost badly again. Meanwhile, Frian has finally received approval for her idea, thus speeding up the training of wizards, as they will include real fights in a new tournament. Chapter 7. Days later, Kanata continues training Fire Team E601, but their teamwork does not improve, and they end up losing against Balloon Beetles. On the other hand, Frian meets with Kanata's former team to ask them if they defeated the unknown Chimera, but they deny it, and she says that the Fire Team E601 says that it was them with Kanata, but since the systems failed, there is no proof and no witnesses. Plus, they will be punished for destroying part of the city, so that squad will be dissolved since they continue to accumulate defeats. This is supported by Yuri, who does not believe that being an instructor is Kanata's place. After that, Frian shows them a pamphlet about the new tournament. In the classroom, the girls of Fire Team E601 complain about not being given credit for their fight with the giant Chimera, but Kanata shows no interest in the matter and shows them the pamphlet of the new tournament. If they win, they will receive new fighting weapons, they will rise ranks, and they will be able to go to eat wherever they want. This excites the girls, who are convinced to participate. At that moment, Kanata is summoned to speak with Frian. She tells him that he is fired and she will disband his squad. Despite this, he does not seem worried, since he fulfilled his duty of teaching the girls to fight like wizards. Frian laughs, since she does not believe that a traitor like him can teach something important. But Kanata doesn't pay attention and tells her that his squad will sign up at the tournament and win. Frian mocks him again, and seeing Kanata's confidence, she bets that if they win, she will consider not disbanding the squad. All this is heard by the girls behind the door. Once the meeting is over, Kanata meets with the girls, and they are worried about the news that they will be disbanded. But Kanata says that the tournament is more important, so tomorrow they will start a special training. At night, Frian and Kanata's former teammates go to the dissection laboratory, where they study the Beetles. Upon arriving, they witness all the experiments with these specimens, showing that they are a kind of machines as well as animals. After seeing this, they meet Nua, who immediately gets excited when he sees the Academy's strongest wizards, the Fire Team's 128, but he gets more excited when Yuri remembers him. Frian asks him to show them the new Chimera Beetle. It turns out that Nua found the eye of this Chimera and named it Antares, and it has the ability to regenerate. This opens the door to many experiments as well as the possibility of creating regenerative medicine. Just before the group leaves, Nua asks Yuri if it's true that she only likes men stronger than her, and she says yes, exciting Nua. Then Frian explains to them that the reason for the tournament is this: the Beetles are evolving, and if the wizards don't do something, all will be lost. Just before leaving, she asks Yuri one last thing. The next day, the draw for the tournament teams takes place. To the good luck of the E601 girls, they are against E571 squad. They are happy to tell Kanata about this, but he meets Yuri, and she tells him that Frian put her in charge of a squad, a fire team of 227, and makes fun of not being able to defeat Kanata's team because they are on opposite sides, but Kanata says that they can fight if both squads reach the final, so he challenges her that if his girls beat her squad, she will join his team, and although Yuri does not believe this is possible, she accepts. The girls can't believe that their instructor is talking about a possible final, and he tells them that if they don't win the tournament, Frian will disband them. Chapter 8. 3 years ago, Yuri was watching one of Kanata, Chloe, and Lloyd's matches, and she believed that it was impossible for a D-rank fire team like Kanata's to beat in a fire team. However, he surprised everyone with his moves and even saving Yuri from a missed attack, and after that, Kanata's fire team easily won the match. Later, he went to see Yuri, who wanted to properly thank him for saving her, but Kanata asks her to join him in the skies. Back in the present, this 128 team analyzes a case where a student was attacked at night by a guy with a black aura surrounding him. But the victim did not see his face at that moment. Kanata appears to bother Yuri, and after making her blush, she leaves. Then Chloe is about to say something about Yuri to him, but Kanata beats her to it, since he knows that Yuri asked for an E-rank squad to be given to her, since she wanted to face him on equal terms, but Frian gave her an A-rank squad. Later, Kanata takes his students to train with the Balloon Beetles again, but in this case, they use a different method. He changes their position randomly, and although Misora disagreed first, Rico and Lecty agreed. Then Rico figures out how to proceed, sending Misora to fight against the farthest balloons on the left, while she and Lecty stay with those closest to them. It turns out that Rico realized that they must lure the enemy into allied territory to exterminate them. Although Kanata's team was making progress, suddenly, Yuri arrives with her A-rank squad, demonstrating great skill. This discourages Kanata's girls, but he is confident that if they manage to work as a team, they will be able to defeat such a squad, which motivated the girls while Yuri gets sad. After training, the girls rest while Rico receives a massage from Kanata, who realizes that she is the one who cares the most about her friends since she pays attention to them and knows what instructions to give when they need them. Upon leaving the academy, Kanata meets Yuri, who wants to talk to him, but they are both followed by the girls, who become suspicious when they see them so friendly. Yuri takes Kanata to a cafe, he orders a black coffee, and she doesn't want to be left behind, so she forces herself to order black coffee too, but she can't even drink it, so she adds a lot of sugar and milk. Meanwhile, the E601 girls sit at a distant table to spy on them. Lecty and Rico suggest that they are on a date since gossip says that Yuri is not having a good time because 6 months ago, she decided to stop using spears, and that is her strength, so they think that Kanata is comforting his girlfriend, and Misora can't believe that their instructor has a girlfriend. After that, Kanata tells Yuri that he read her interview that she likes people who are stronger than her. He thinks she means Chloe, and he can't believe she says it so openly. Yuri knows that he is kidding her, so he changes the subject and asks him to stop being an instructor, since those girls are a failure, and even if he is a traitor, he cannot waste his knowledge on those girls who will never improve. But Kanata tells her that this can apply to him and Chloe too, since in the past, Chloe could barely fly well and was called a failure. Yuri is speechless and says that she will pay the bill and leaves. Then he says that he will pay the bill for his squad's table, and Yuri is embarrassed that they were spying on them. Later, Chloe and Lloyd's go to see Frian. They have discovered that the victims are all men and they are rising in rank, and they predict that the next victim will be a B-rank boy, and they are right. That night, a B-rank boy is chased by a hooded guy surrounded by a black aura, and when he catches up with him, he starts hitting him. It turns out that this guy is Nua, who is obsessed with being the strongest, so Yuri will like him. Chapter 9. The next morning, Lecty wakes up early and goes jogging, and to her surprise, she meets Kanata, who also jogs in the mornings. After a while, they both stop to talk. Lecty expresses her concern since she does not know if the training they do is effective, and although she knows that Kanata wants to strengthen them, she also knows that Misora has no skills in the vanguard position. But Kanata calms her down and tells her that she is right, but she must understand something first. So he takes her to make her work as a maid again. However, this time she will work in a restaurant at lunchtime, where the movements are more fluid and non-stops, so Lecty finds it difficult to adapt at first, but little by little she realizes that she must watch her surroundings. Later, in training against the Balloon Beetles, Rico and Misora continue to complain about each other's poor work. Then Lecty asks that they not fight anymore while she realizes how lonely it is to be in the rear guard. So Kanata explains to her that the vanguard must rely on the middle guard position and rear guard to cover her. This surprises Lecty. She didn't know it was such hard work, and she realizes that she must pay attention to those around her, finally understanding the lesson that Kanata wanted to teach her. Then Lecty tells Misora that if she calms down, she could do a better job at the vanguard than her since she has greater speed. Then she expresses to Rico that she finally understands how difficult her job is in the rear guard, causing her to become motivated and both to improve their attacks. And finally, the fire team E601 begins to improve its teamwork. Later, Kanata meets Claude, who hasn't slept in days because of the attacker they are looking for, since the attacker has attacked an A-rank boy, and the next victim will be someone of S rank. Suddenly, Misora arrives and she complains about Kanata's strange training, but he tells her that he has a new type of training. Later, he takes his girls to a very dirty room. He tells them that from now on, they will live together until the tournament starts, so they must clean their new house. Upon leaving the academy, Yuri finds Kanata waiting for her with her favorite dessert she cannot refuse, so she agrees to talk to him. They go to a lonely place, and he asks her if she stopped using the spear because of him, but she says that a sword suits her better. But he disagrees, since when he was training her, he realized that she has a bad habit of retreating after attacking. That's why he gave her a spear instead of a sword. That Yuri asks him why he cares so much about her, but before Kanata can answer her, Nua appears in a hoodie and challenges Yuri to a fight. Nua shows that he is very fast, however, Yuri manages to take the sword from him, although Nua begins to use Wind Slash, managing to put her against the ropes. So Kanata steps in and saves her. After a small confrontation, he defeats Nua because the only thing he has is his speed. Then Nua flees, leaving Yuri unconscious, promising to show his love to her again. Nua returns to the laboratories and takes off her hood, and the Beetles' eye begins to speak to him, asking him to use it. On the other hand, Kanata arrives at the girl's room with Yuri in his arms. They misinterpret the situation since they think that his instructor had a wild encounter with his girlfriend due to her bruises and clothes all torn up. Chapter 10. The girls quickly put her on the bed and off her clothes and ask Kanata why he brought her. At first, Rico thinks he wants to get rid of her to get an advantage in the tournament, but at that moment, Yuri wakes up and discovers that she's not wearing any clothes, and she is so embarrassed that she takes out a weapon that Rico had kept under the pillow and threatens to attack Kanata for taking her clothes off. But the girls assure her that they did it while Kanata flees out the window. Lecty lends Yuri a dress of hers and she puts it on. While the girls discuss Kanata, then Yuri appears and tells them that her training with Kanata was also unusual, so the girls ask her about it, but she doesn't want to tell them, so the girls conclude that they are dating. Suddenly, Kanata returns and gives Yuri an amulet so that when she's in trouble, she will remember what he taught her. Misora hears this and complains to him that she still doesn't understand the objective of the training of living together, to which Kanata says that he will punish her, and begins to bother her, making Yuri remember when they were friends, and she gets angry and warns him that if his squad reaches the finals, her 227 team will destroy them. Once the girls are alone, Misora begins to complain about how they will lose everything if they don't win, and gets angrier when she sees that Rico only worries about being hungry, so Lecty offers to cook, demonstrating with Rico that both are in perfect coordination and making Misora think that she is the only one who is useless. The days go by, and Misora still feels like she's the only one who doesn't fit in, since Rico and Lecty work well together. The day of the tournament finally arrives, and Frian announces that due to the growing threat of the Beetles, this tournament was organized to discover new forces. After explaining the rules, Kanata only asks his students to rest, since their fight is not the first, however. Misora is still upset, since everyone is too calm. At night, the girls can't bathe because the engine is broken, so Misora tries to fix it, but instead breaks it down further. As a result, they go to another bathrooms. Although they relax at first, Misora and Rico quickly start fighting, causing Misora to take it out on them, only to later feel bad about it. The next day, Kanata meets her, asking her how her convivence was. She responds that she only discovered that she was the weakest of the team. In a last attempt to make her understand, he tells her to relax and look around her. Then their match starts against the same girls from the last time. As soon as the fight begins, Misora rushes in without thinking to attack, missing and being immobilized by a flurry of gunfire. The rival team takes advantage of this to try to beat her, but then Rico and Lecty jump in to save her and thus begin to attack. While she sees them, Misora feels bad for being the weakest and only getting in their way, but when she sees Kanata, she remembers his words, beginning to realize little by little how the key to being stronger is to trust her teammates. Then Misora begins to remember all the experiences she had with them, slowly understanding what he means, and finally realizes what she has to do, beginning to charge a powerful attack. Although their rival tries to stop Misora, Lecty and Rico protect her, until Misora shoots and wins for the first time alongside her squad. On the other hand, Nua communicates with the Beetles' eye, which asks him to use it more, and he listens to it and injects something into his throat. Chapter 11. As soon as the fire team E601 wins their first match, Frian assumes it was just luck, just like in all their other matches. However, the girls make it to the finals, frustrating her greatly to the point that she has the deal she made with Kanata published in the news. If they lose, they will be dissolved. That night, Lecty reflects that she always wanted to change, but she couldn't until Kanata helped her do so gradually. Rico remembers when she met Kanata and admits that he has been doing his job well. Finally, Misora realizes that Kanata helped her get closer to her dream of being like her mother, a true sky wizard. The three meet to train since they cannot sleep, and without them knowing, Kanata watches them happily because they have improved. The next day, the grand finals begin. Fire Team A227 vs Fire Team E601. Kanata's fire team is not well received by the spectators, while Yuri's squad is cheered and praised, showing the clear difference in support. The duel begins. Yuri and Kanata reunite and remind each other that if Kanata loses, his team will disband, and if she does, she will join theirs. Once the two teams begin fighting, Yuri's squad quickly takes position, forcing Kanata's girls to take evasive action. Lecty confronts Sasha, but she fails to attack her. In fact, she receives an attack from Greg, leaving her defenseless, but then Rico arrives to defend her. On the other hand, while the fight is taking place, Chloe and Loy head to the back gate, since the protection team there is not responding. Back in the fight, Misora is on the defensive, dodging Lily's attacks, but manages to get her within range of Rico, leaving her defenseless for a moment. However, at that moment, Lily pulls out a blade from her weapon and dodges Rico's attack, telling her that Yuri anticipated this attack. The public begins to mock that Kanata's team because they just running away. This is joined by Yuri, who begins to brag to Kanata that she managed to make a better plan than his, given that her squad managed to put his girls on the ropes. At that moment, Misora takes to the sky, preparing a powerful shot, since Lily, who knows how to counter it, believes that they have already won, but Kanata smiles and reveals his true plan to Yuri, since the entire 227 fire team is in Misora's line of fire because his three girls are only moving the 227 squad, so they line up in a straight line. But it was just a trick, and Lily gets angry and starts chasing Misora again. Then Kanata says that Lily is the prey and Misora is the hunter. Then Misora begins to maneuver through the air, preparing the same strategy again, and when Lily believes is another trick, Misora shoots, winning the encounter. Just when the presenter is going to announce Kanata's team's victory, someone attacks her and activates the air raid alarms. Chloe and Lloyd realize that this person's goal is to keep everyone away from the place. In the battle arena, Nua appears and says that he is stronger than Yuri, and Misora notices that he has a black aura that surrounds him just like Kanata. Then Nua approaches Yuri, but is stopped by Kanata, who tries to take her away but is injured by Nua. Nua does not give up and begins to follow her, but Misora launches an attack with her sword and manages to stop him. Chapter 12. After Nua gets up, Clove and Lloyd arrive to ask him to surrender, but Nua takes a monstrous form, producing a powerful tornado that drives Chloe and Lloyd away and takes the opportunity to trap Yuri. Misora realizes that the power that Nua uses is the same one that Kanata used that time with the Chimera Beetle. Then Nua realizes that the girls are still there and throws them away with the wind, making Kanata angry and activate his powers. Then Nua realizes that Kanata was chosen by the Beetles like him, and this is why he became a rogue, since he knows that everyone would go crazy if they discovered his power, but Nua takes it as a blessing. Nua and Kanata start fighting, but Nua catches him and Yuri, and is about to execute him, but then Kanata's students come out to defend him and free him and Yuri. However, their attacks do not hurt Nua as he regenerates. Suddenly, Nua turns his arm into a sword with chains, throwing it at Yuri, but Kanata gets in the way and takes the blow, falling to the ground weakened. Yuri is horrified to see this, but then she sees that Kanata's students are not giving up and she squeezes the amulet that Kanata gave her and decides not to give up either. Kanata's squad charges at the monster, but none of their attacks manage to harm him. Kanata realizes that the weaker they look, the more careless Nua will become. But Nua adopts level 2 of a beetle and grows wings from his body, with which she flies towards the girls to ask them about Yuri, but she reveals herself to be behind them. She is ready to attack with the spear that Kanata gave her a long time ago. With it, she manages to damage Nua, since her spear, Trishula, has an oscillating mechanism, cutting everything at the molecular level. On the ground, Yuri asks Nua to surrender, but he does not listen to her and runs towards Kanata, so Yuri throws her spear and Nua returns to normal. Once the fight is over, all the students and those affected are taken to the hospital, and as Frian approaches, Kanata leaves, to which Chloe and Lloyd say that he has not changed, since he never takes credit for his work, causing Yuri to know the truth. After that, they manipulated and published the official story about the incident, and Frian denied the promotion of the fire team E601 but paid their debts for destroying the city. They ask if they will be given the new weapons, but these were destroyed during the incident, so only the trophy remains, which depresses them. But Kanata congratulates them wholeheartedly and says that he is proud of them. Suddenly, Yuri enters the classroom ready to fulfill her part of her deal with Kanata. She introduces herself in a crude manner, so Kanata tells her to introduce herself again, and she does so embarrassedly. Then she gives Kanata a cake and he says that they will eat it right now, but Yuri asks him to eat it alone, but he doesn't listen to her and opens the cake box, and it turns out that the cake had a declaration of love for him. But Kanata jokes that Yuri likes one of the girls in his squad, and Yuri runs away embarrassed. As the days go by, Nua continues to recover in the hospital, and even Yuri sent him flowers to recover. Misora's father's cafeteria was rebuilt, and now she and Lecty work there, Rico continues buying cute things. In the end, the 4 girls of Squad E601 fly together through the sky like a single shooting star while being washed by a smiling Kanata.